Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode, another session of So You Want to Start Up. I'm Emily, and we also have an Emily here, which is always fun. Emily Hanna, we'll say, is the owner of Hanna Valley Protein. And so she owns a food-based business. We have a lot of really amazing food-based business owners on this series. And I think it's really intriguing to a lot of people who want to start something in their own kitchen or take something and scale it to like every grocery store chain possible. So we're going to talk to Emily and where she's at today in her business. And hopefully you take a nugget or two that, adds value to your journey. So Emily, tell us what business you own in your own words and why you started.
Sure. So I own Hanna Valley Protein. We specialize in organic plant-based protein powder. It has only 5 ingredients in each one of our flavors. We just keep it really simple, keep a lot of the junk out of it that commercial protein powders have in them. And we started because of just what my own health struggles and wanting to bring a product to people that they could find that was affordable and that they didn't have to wonder where it was coming from, and being able to trust the source.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you had your own health struggles and you were like, but you still wanted protein powder, right? Like as someone consuming that, but you couldn't find one that met the criteria of what you needed. So you're like, well, I'll just create it, right?
Yes. In my coffee grinder for like 3 years, I ground up so much protein powder forever.
Like this small coffee grinder?
Yeah. I could have even gotten
a food processor,
anything, but no, I stuck with my little.
I'm impressed. I've been there. So I've never done it with protein powder though. So, okay. So after 3 years, you decide, okay, you're going to turn it into a business, right? What was the moment for you that was like, this is something I want to monetize?
Well, like I mentioned, like the health journey that I was on, I was in just a really bad place, and there wasn't a lot of hope medically or in any options that I saw. And so I started just researching and took my own nutritional route kind of to healing. And in the process of that, I felt like I had to change things I did on the daily, and like pots and pans. I did our protein powder, and I wanted it to be something that my family could have as well. The protein powder was ultimately for my husband, but I wanted us to all be able to reap the benefits of it. So yeah, so we just I prayed a lot about it, and I knew that somehow the challenges that I went through, I just prayed really hard that somehow I would be able to turn it into something that would be able to benefit others, but also be a way that I could support my family.
That's so cool. I love that. That reminds me so much of, we were just talking about Flourish, last night's event of Fund Ideas That Matter. Like business can be so powerful because you can make a difference in other people's lives through the products you have, but also it adds value to your family by creating an income stream. So I think that's so cool. So as you got started, what was an early win? Like what's the earliest thing that happened? You were like, oh, okay, I think I'm onto something.
Probably we weren't sure if we were going to even do this. It was hard to believe that I'm starting protein powder. That wasn't my background. Business wasn't my background. It was in education. And so I knew the person that ran the farmer's market. She's like, you should apply, just try it. I think the idea is great. Just give it a shot. And I was like, I don't know. And so then we figured out all of the logistics of what went into applying for that. And so then we did it, and I was like, whoa, people actually like it, like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's never something that I plan to go beyond my own walls, but friends and family were asking for it. And it just turned into something that I just didn't expect it to, but I'm so grateful it did. So yeah, my earliest win was probably just having a successful market season and then realizing, okay, this is like turning into something real for us.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a lot of food-based business owners' journeys, is kind of starting at home, enjoying it, friends and family, you give it to them, make sure they think it's good. And then you're like, okay, try the market. Like, let's try it to like a cold audience who has no idea who I am, who has no idea. They're willing to give you a chance. And then I imagine over time, people were like, okay, you're not at the market anymore because, we're in Iowa, so it gets cold and we don't have markets all year. So they probably wanted more. Yeah. So what was the journey next then after the market?
So I was selling via Messenger on
Yep.
Facebook, and people would message me, and then I would get it to them because I didn't want to do anything that would jeopardize us like legally.
Yep.
And so we fell under like the cottage law at the time, but
Mm.
still I wanted to make sure to do things as proper as possible. But one of the hardest things and I think other people would probably say the same in the food packaged based industry is there's no like roadmap.
Mhm.
There's no anything telling you how to do it. It's like, okay, you kind of stumble and then you stumble some more and then you kind of just find your way. And so I feel like that's really what we like ultimately did. So January of 2020 is when we were fully licensed
Okay.
to sell retail.
Mhm.
And then in early March, I was able to get everything together, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was from January to March. Like I worked my butt off trying to get labels and proper labeling and all that. And then we started in Campbell's Nutrition here in Des Moines. So that was our first store, which I love. It was a big part of my own healing journey. So it was kind of bitter. It was just like a really cool moment to be in there. So then the pandemic hit 2 weeks later.
Yep.
And it was just like not just business change, but just life in general changed. And we have little
Mhm.
kids. And so then they were home and just, but it didn't, I just kept going. I just kept
Mhm.
going. Like, it's just like like, if I can just keep going, it doesn't matter where I'm going as long as I'm moving, you know? So.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And now you've got your product in other grocery stores and in the Des Moines area, probably specifically.
We're in about 20, I think 20 to 25 locations throughout Iowa. We're in Des
Mhm.
Moines, mostly. We're in Pella, Iowa, Osceola, Corwith. Um, we are in Omaha now, which is really exciting. So we're
Hey.
branching out.
Yeah. So
um,
cool.
yeah.
Okay, so just wanted to make sure we dug into a little bit more of your journey because it is, I think, where people maybe get like stuck is like, okay, I can see visually like showing up at a market and doing this, but then it's like that what next part, and like you said, there's no playbook. So maybe you can share a little bit. Like, was there a specific challenge along the journey that you overcame that you want to share?
Oh, so many. I would have to say when we first started talking about it, I can't believe it was even this long ago. I think it maybe was in 18. I started just calling like Iowa State. Like I just didn't even know anything I was looking up, didn't give me answers. And so we went to this class in Nebraska at the university, and it was just about starting a food-based business and all that. And I talked my husband into going, which I can't believe he even went with me. No, he just thought I was complete nut. He still does, but and so we went to this class, and it was great information, but basically it shot down all of our dreams. Like the
Hmm.
minimum they said it was going to cost to start it, and just our own personal feelings towards that is we just didn't want to go into debt doing it. We wanted to do it, even if it was slow, we wanted to do it in a way that
Mhm.
was according to our values, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
And so after that, I was just kind of like, well, there went that. And
Wow.
I mentioned my farmer's market friend. She was our old neighbor, and I ended up seeing her at a graduation party
Okay.
and of another neighbor. And I was just like, she's like, what was your idea? We started to talk one time and you never got to finish. I was like, don't even worry about it. It's not even, it's not going to happen. Like, it's not possible. Just moving on. And
Mm.
it ended up, her encouragement is what ended up pulling us
Wow.
back out of that, because we almost didn't do it because of that. So that was like our first major hurdle that I didn't even know was
Mm.
that, I guess, at the time.
Oh my gosh, that's so powerful because that's like in the space of like, I have this idea, and then someone basically shoots it down. Maybe not directly to you, but just like the
Right.
way they tee it up, it's kind of like you must have X amount of dollars, you must have X like supplier and all this like stuff. And you're
Mhm.
like, oh, now probably what you've learned is like, you don't need any of that. That's all like someone else's perception. And if you
Yeah.
take on someone else's perception as your truth, like, then you don't have any other room for possibility elsewhere. So I'm so glad that person, yeah, kudos to what's her name?
Kelly. Kelly
Kelly.
Paul. Yeah.
Thanks for
She's
making,
amazing.
yeah, for encouraging Emily along the way. I love it. Okay, so that's one of the challenges you faced. I mean, I know there's so many, but thanks for sharing that. And then give us 3 pieces of advice for someone wanting to start a food-based business. Maybe it's similar to yours, maybe it's totally different. What would you tell them?
Just start. Like, just start. It's like, if you are a parent, it's like, you're never ready to have a child. Like, you're never ready to buy your first house. You're never ready. And
Mhm.
I just think, like, just starting, and no matter how slow you go, and let me tell you, like, there's been times where I'm like going so slow. I'm like, okay, I'm still moving the right way. Like, that's like
Yeah.
my overall goal. No matter what, I just don't ever want to stop.
Mhm.
So as long as you just keep moving forward and just try it. And if something doesn't work, try it another way, like, or try it again. Or something that somebody's told me is never tell your big dreams to small-minded people. And that is the best advice I've ever gotten, because no one is in your mind. No one's in your heart. No one knows what you're capable of.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So just start.
yeah,
What else you
just
got?
start. Yeah.
What else you got for us? Anything else that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so remember your why is a big
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
Um, I, when you get started, you feel this like pressure, and you don't want to lose out, or,
Mhm.
miss something. And so there's been times where I've allowed my business, which I am so passionate about, which I do believe is right, but has consumed me to the point where I was losing my priorities. And
Mhm.
my whole reason of why I was doing it was to help people, but to also for my family. And so I think it's important to find that balance, set your priorities, and don't allow outside influences to waver those,
Mhm.
because the journey will happen,
Mhm.
as it's meant to, if you keep trying. But I think if you start losing the things that are most important to you, what's the point?
Yeah. A lot of people start businesses because of this promise of freedom. And I find that a lot of entrepreneurs actually are the ones like suffocating themselves the most. And I'm
Mhm.
like, the irony, you work whenever you want, which means like 15 plus hours a day, but
Absolutely.
you're
Yeah.
free to share you could share about how you have achieved freedom on social media. I think it's all like, this is an illusion. People, this is not
Totally.
real. And I think you can achieve that over time. But in
Mhm.
the first few years, it's like, like you're like building something from the ground up, even if you're taking one step at a time, just like you said, like some days and weeks and months are just slower. And like, if that means you're honoring your values and you're going slower, like, so what? Like, what do
Yes.
it's your own journey. Okay. Anything else you want to share in terms of advice for people who are on this path?
I would say another part that's made it just enjoyable is the small business community. Entrepreneurship is the loneliest, just it can be really lonely. And it was lonely for me for a long time. And my husband only wants to hear me blab for so long, as my person. And so when I started to just learn more about the small business community, and even knowing how important a small business is, like, it was new to me, even shopping small and
Mhm.
shopping local, and like, what does that really mean, and how can I make this happen? And there's a misconception that everything's so much more expensive, so you could never buy it that way. It's like, well, no, and it's quality over quantity. It's just
Mhm.
what you think is important.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think small business community, like, they cheer you on. Being part of Love Local is the same way. Like, I know I could contact anybody and just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm having a hard time, or, oh, like, things are going really great. And it's so fun
Mhm.
to have the people to celebrate with you. And there's also fun to have people that get it to pick you back up. So
Totally. Community is so like it's underrated. It's almost like people don't realize they're missing out until they have it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have people who are going through the same things, or maybe not the exact same things. Cause like, someone who has a brick and mortar might be different, have different struggles than you, like doing wholesale with grocery stores, but you're still like experiencing different new level, new devil, or whatever the phrase is of like, okay, like mindset alone, just having people to feel like, okay, I'm actually like, I'm on a roller coaster, and we're all like, yeah, same. Like some days we're
yeah.
here, some days we're here. And sometimes it's like multiple up and downs in one day alone. And you just don't feel as like crazy inside.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go from one day I'm like, I'm on top of the world. This, like, I'm rocking this. I got this. The next day I'm like pulling myself off the ground. Like, what did I do? I suck. Everything I do is terrible. It's just
Someone just hire
so
me full time somewhere. Just pay
yeah.
me and I'll show up. Yeah. It's wild, my friends. I will say that that's a big, big one that a lot of people have touched on, just like the community for sure.
Mhm.
So, okay, where are you going next? Like, where do you see yourself in the next year, 10 years, wherever you want to go?
I just believe sky's the limit. Like I'm
Mhm.
not, I don't have, I have this problem with putting a ceiling on things. I think a lot of us do that and like what we're capable of. And so I just, I want to be bold. I want to be unstoppable. And I don't know where that's going to lead per
Mhm.
se. But my heart is like into making the biggest impact that I can. I want to provide a product, but also it's like my gateway into kind of helping
Mm.
people, which I love. And that's,
Yeah.
a big part of it. So
Mhm.
I'm just excited for that. I'm excited for getting into more stores. I'd like to kind of go beyond, like we started with Omaha. I'd like to go beyond Iowa. We've got some new products that are going to be coming out soon. We've got our fall pumpkin spice flavor, which has been so awesome, but it went way better than I anticipated. So,
Oh,
just,
good.
yeah, learning, you just
Yeah.
learn as you go, but, I'm excited for bringing new products out there
Mhm.
and, just seeing kind of where things go from here.
Limitless. I love it. Sky's the limit or beyond the I don't know.
Sure, wherever it goes. Yeah.
Galaxy. The moon. I don't know, wherever. Okay, so where can people find you if they want to connect more, if they want to keep learning about you? Where do you exist in the world?
So you can go to hannavalley.com. The tricky part is there's no H at the end of Hanna. So
Mhm.
HANNA valley.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram. I try to stay pretty active on there, just kind of sharing recipes, or I do giveaways, or just kind of updates on what's going on at Hanna Valley and things like that. So I love to connect with people. If you get on there,
She
say
does.
hi, or yeah.
She does. Em's a great connector and she'll always just pump you up. I feel like you're an Enneagram too, are you? I don't know if that's true.
Or
No, you're
well, I'm a 4, and I start like, but that was quite a few years ago. And I feel like
okay.
I feel like I've really grown a lot. And I think that will always be like, I'm full of emotion. That's just who I am. But it's kind of like I can keep it in check a little bit better now. Maybe I'm
Wisdom.
healthier for.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yeah, I had a wing. It was like a wing. I can't remember, of 9.
the
Uh,
peacemaker, peace something.
yeah,
Peace.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that total vibes. I love it. So yes, connect with Emily on Instagram or wherever she exists elsewhere in the world. And thanks so much for being on this episode today.
thanks, Emily.